Sorry, I look crazy today, y'all.
Can y'all see it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Also, bear with me. I'm the first non-teacher to do a presentation, so this will be fun.
I'm not a teacher.
I'm the first only students.
Oh,
There we go.
Mm.
Are you not a teacher? I thought you were a teacher.
no, I do the accounting part.
Ah, I
campus.
see.
I take your money.
All right. Well, might as well get started. So the movie we watched this week was Interstellar. It's a 2014 Christopher Nolan film. Christopher Nolan is I'm just going to start reading. But Christopher Nolan is a British American film director, most known for his hand in making the Dark Knight trilogy, as well as the groundbreaking films such as Inception and Prestige. Prestige, I have not heard a lot about, but I've heard it's good. Inception, I just watched over the summer. It is as complicated but as satisfying as Interstellar is. Um, and I just completely I'm blanking. My bad.
The Prestige is a really cool movie.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, it's got Hugh Jackman and someone else in it.
It has Michael Caine in it. I know that. Apparently, Christopher Nolan really likes recycling his actors. But the composer is Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is basically the modern day version of John Williams. He's done everything from Inception, Gladiator, The Prince of Egypt, The Lion King, Rango. Literally, if you look at this guy's list, it is dozens of movies that you've at the very least heard of if you haven't already watched them and you like them. But characters. Cooper is played by Matthew McConaughey. McConaughey is a Hollywood superstar who played in critically acclaimed movies like Dallas Buyers Club, The Wolf of Wall Street, and A Time to Kill. Surprisingly, McConaughey has only one Academy Award to his name for Dallas Buyers Club. His charisma contributes to his success as an actor, and this film is no exception. If anything, this film gives us his softer side. Because in everything else, it's pretty much been 90% charisma. And then we have Murphy Cooper, which is his daughter, mostly played by Mackenzie Foy, who played Little Coop, or played 40-year-old Murph-ish. I don't know how old she was. But Chastain has been nominated for 2 Oscars herself for Zero Dark 30 and The Help. And she is Cooper's motivation to come home to Earth, or to save Earth, and eventually is the person who helps save everybody on Earth. And then we have Dr. Brand. Dr. Brand is played by Anne Hathaway. She's another Oscar-winning actress who starred in Les Mis, Brokeback Mountain, and The Princess Diaries. Her character is the member of the crew we get attached to most, other than the main character. And her entire goal is to make sure the mission is successful. And then we have Professor Brand, her father, played by Michael Caine. If you don't know who Michael Caine is, you better know. He is one of the better actors that's came out of the UK. One of his movies that he's played in most recently, though, is The Prestige, the Dark Knight trilogy. He played Alfred, and Tenet, which is another Chris Nolan movie that just came out. He acts as a catalyst for the plot who convinces Cooper to leave Earth, and he tries to find a solution to help Earth. And spoiler alert, if nobody's seen this movie, he didn't really try that hard. Then we have Romilly. Romilly is played by British actor David Gaiacy, is my guess on how you pronounce that. And he's really just the guy that explains these concepts that are really hard for us to understand as an audience. He's the one who will tell he will tell Coop, who should already know this, that like how a wormhole works and how the relativity works and all that. And even though his explanations are a little redundant because he's saying this to somebody who already knows about this stuff, being he's on the mission, it definitely does help out us as an audience. And then there's Dr. Mann, who is played by Matt Damon. I'm not going to tell you what Matt Damon's played in. You know what Matt Damon's played in. He acts as the closest person to an antagonist in this film. If you really think about it, Tom is the main antagonist, but this is the closest person to an antagonist in this film. Him and Professor Brand's main goal is to save humanity, even if it comes at the cost of leaving everybody on Earth behind. And notable scenes. The first notable scene that I noticed, at least, is Cooper's goodbye scene to Murph. Not only is it foreshadowing for the rest of the movie, but it is also a really emotionally impactful scene. Seeing Murph cry and telling him not to go. And he's like, you don't understand, but right now I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to make sure you're safe. And then when he leaves, and then the books get knocked off the shelf, it's just, it's a rough scene. But then you have the scene on the ocean planet, which is my favorite scene because if you notice the music in the background, there's ticks. It kind of sounds like a clock. It goes tick, tick, tick. Hans Zimmer made that specifically to show how in the movie where they say that an hour is 7 years on Earth, that that piece of music was meant to represent where a tick would be a day. So tick, 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 tick. I counted the ticks in that scene. There's about 140. So 140 days from now would be early August, and 140 days ago was early November. So just a couple minutes scene, and it's that long of a time. And then, of course, when they get back, you have Cooper who's watching his kids grow up in just, he's only been down at that planet for just a little bit, but he just watches his kids grow from 15 to mid 20s to mid 30s, like they're now his age when he finally gets back to seeing them, and it's only been a couple hours for him. And to see his pain watching his kids grow and knowing he couldn't be there for them, and to hear Murph's message at the end saying that she is his age now, his age when he left, is just heartbreaking. Like it made me teary-eyed. It genuinely made me teary-eyed. But the final scene that I thought was notable was the Tesseract scene at the end when Coop goes into the black hole and he finds this endless Tesseract of like just nothing but Murph's room, and he's able to communicate with her. And that even ties into the other notable scene, which is Coop leaving, and it just ties everything in really well. It's obviously when we get it is the climax of the movie right there. It's just overall genuinely a good uh, scene, even if it is just a tad confusing. And the themes, of course, one of them is: are we explorers at heart, or are we better off stationary? Are we better? Are we more nomadic uh, in our DNA, or are we better off finding a place, looking at some trees, being like, okay, that'll be shelter. We can use that for firewood. Are we better off being resourceful with where we are put, or are we better off searching for better land? And obviously, this has a very environmental theme to it. So, should we leave Earth, or should we fix it in a situation where things are so bad that pretty much the only thing we have left is corn? Do we try everything in our power to save Earth, or do we get all on a huge ship and search for a better world? And then what are you willing to sacrifice for those you love most? Coop, at the end of the day, loved Murph so much that he was willing to miss out on her entire life to save her, to make sure she was okay, to make sure that she was able to live. Because he knew if that hadn't happened, I don't even know if she'd make it to 30 or make it to 50, make it to 60. Like, would she have had a fuller life if Cooper had not gone into space and tried to help her that way? And then there were some sub themes. It's not a part of the main theme, but it is a part of the general theme. It is a part of the movie, and the movie asks these questions, and therefore it's something that we need to think about. And one of them is that what we teach reflects what we value. So, for example, when Cooper says that his son is a good farmer, but he asks about college, and they're like, "Well, we don't need engineers right now. We need farmers." So that's what we're gonna stick with. And not only that, but the line that just killed me most, not only as a history buff, but as a space nerd. When the woman says that we faked the moon landings, like that just it got on my nerves. Not only because like we landed on the moon, period. And there's no way that we didn't land on the moon. But uh it just shows that the reason why we said that was because we needed money for other things. So if we needed more money for fixing Earth, then why are you gonna say that we landed on the moon and stuff? You're gonna give off a better message than that. So, as sloppy as it was, that is my presentation. And I will let anybody who wants to have the floor.
First of all, I don't think that was sloppy at all. I thought that you done a really good job in pointing things out that we need to see and that we discuss and that we usually just, talk about. I thought you done a good job on that. I'm not an S or a sci-fi kind of gal, just not. But this movie, I liked it a lot. And I mean, it was long, but it didn't really seem that long, especially compared to Apocalypse Now or something. But whenever it got to the end and it started putting everything into perspective, it started wrapping everything up and answering so many questions for us. Like I got excited. Like I set up to I was just excited to watch it. So um I mean, it does give you a lot to think about. There's a lot of you know, theories and whatever that everybody's going to have their own opinion on, but I believe that it was a very good movie. It was covered well, and the acting was great. The lighting was amazing, especially whenever they went into the 5 dimension and all that lighting, showing what Murph's room was looking like and him looking into those portals of different time of her and her life. I mean, I just thought that it was amazing. I thought it was great direction and writing too. But good job, Corey.
Thank you. Yeah, just in general, I really liked this movie too. I meant to say, but I completely forgot about it. This movie did win an Oscar for visual effects, so it goes to show how much effort they put into lighting, into CGI, and all of that. And this movie is very, very scientifically accurate. Like when they go to the black hole, it is it is exactly what a black hole would look like, and all of the physics going down to that planet and taking 7 years 7 years per hour, that is exactly what would actually happen if you landed on a planet that close to a black hole. uh, in general, the movie, like Dr. Yeager has said before, this movie is like 90% exposition. It will just flat out tell you what you're about to see next without just looking straight at the camera and say, "Hey, you're going to watch something. Watch out for it." And we're going to explain it to you beforehand. Like a wormhole when the guy shows the piece of paper and he folds it and he's like, "This is how a wormhole works." I From somebody who needed that explanation when I first watched this movie, it was helpful. But when you're explaining that to
Froze up, Corey.
when did I cut out?
Right. You were talking about the exposition and how the first time you watched it, you needed it, but then
Yes. Thank
when
you.
you're explaining to someone else.
Yeah. We need the audience needs that. We need that explanation because we don't know how a wormhole works. So we obviously need that. But when you're talking to someone whose job is NASA engineer, then when you're talking to somebody whose job is NASA pilot, not NASA engineer, my bad. When you're talking to somebody who is a NASA pilot, they know what a wormhole is. They know stuff that's this complicated. And if they don't know, then they have people who's briefed them on it before they left their mission. So it doesn't make sense story-wise to tell them that. So do y'all think that was annoying? Did you think it was helpful? Or were you like, I needed more explanation because the explanations just confused me. Because sometimes that happened to me even.
Sorry, me personally, I thought that it was really strange at first. They were explaining that to people who had the training before, but then I looked at the whole situation of the movie and I realized that these people might have been brought in from the outside who were pretty much disbelievers in that type of science now, because you know how they believed the conspiracy of the moon landing and how they believed all these things that were false. I thought that it was a good device once I looked at the bigger picture of it, but I did have that same feeling as you when I first saw it.
I'm glad that somebody else thought the same thing. But it's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain the the it's just hard to explain my feelings on it, because it's like it is needed, but also like it's not realistic. And also like some of the analogies are just kind of weird. Like I've heard, like I'm a science nerd, I kind of know what a singularity is, but I never heard that if a black hole is a clam, then the singularity is the pearl inside. Like it makes sense, but it's like a weird analogy to me.
Well, for those of us that probably aren't too engulfed in science and that type thing, the explanations were, I think, for me, needful. I love the movie. I've never said that about really a sci-fi movie, but this has been one of my favorite movies. And even in this, Corey, I'm glad you brought out in your opening dialogue there that you shed a tear, because I did too. Especially when I saw the closeness of the father and daughter and even the son. I thought it was really fascinating. Going back to the beginning of the movie, I was intrigued by the amount of dust that it was so dusty there that they had to turn their plates and their cups upside down in order to be able to eat from them. So, I thought the movie was, I thought it was really good. And those little scenes like that, they meant something. So I thought it was a really good movie. And I really liked your presentation at the beginning too.
I appreciate it. I figured, and that's why I'm not like so hardcore against this movie having exposition in it, because like these are hard concepts to explain. Like you can't try explaining to somebody in the 1850s what a black hole is in any terms, simple or otherwise.
Right.
So like I understand completely that, especially for somebody who doesn't have an interest in space and astrophysics and stuff, that you need that explanation. So that's why I'm not like, this movie sucks. It also doesn't help that I've only watched 2 YouTube videos about this, and both of them are hypercritical about the movie.
What did some of those arguments say?
They just didn't like the message towards the end that Dr. Brand says about how love is like the most powerful thing on Earth, or the most powerful thing in the universe, and it stretches across time and space. It was like, this is a little flowery for somebody who's been pretty rock solid scientifically throughout this entire thing.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm changing the subject here a little bit, which I'm good for, but I have a question. Okay, so in the end, whenever we're looking at it and we're seeing that it wasn't a ghost, and it was really him coming to talk to her. And they keep talking about them, and they didn't choose him, they chose her, and he was the bridge that put it together. But at the end, I kind of got that it was him, or them, not not just him, but McConaughey and all of them. It was them that even started it, the whole thing. So is that right, or did I interpret that wrong?
It sounds about right to me because like it does. It sounds about right to me. That's pretty much what I got from it. I got the same type of feeling, Bob, whatever you want to call that. I got that same thing from it. And I was just as confused by the ending too. Because I've watched this now 3 times. I've watched this now 3 times, and it's been a little less confusing each time, but it's still like it's one of those things where it's really hard to wrap your head around in general.
Right.
And even worse so when, like, I don't know, it's just not the best in terms of explaining that. All I know is that these beings are likely descendants of humans thousands, if not millions of years into the future, and they can go back in time to help us get to where they are. Other than that, there's really no clear explanation.
I was actually reading up on this before class. It's called the boot. It's a paradox almost at the end, right? They call it the bootstrap paradox. But one way of interpreting the movie is humanity actually did die on Earth, but the colony that she sets up, right, helped, set all the events in motion. So that's one explanation. I, I seemed a little out there, but that's one explanation that I know was put forth.
Most people I know
A
just
question
take
I
this.
had about,
I was just going to say
sorry, go ahead.
most people take this at face value.
Mm.
As far as I could tell, a lot of people just are like, this is too complicated to even have more theories piling on top of the other. So we're just gonna we're gonna take this the way it's supposed to be. Anyways, go ahead. Whoever was gonna speak.
Sorry about that. A question that I had, it really intrigued me in the scene where the teacher at the school literally said that the moon landing was fake. It really intrigued me at the end whenever we see the the colony, and I thought I really didn't believe it. I don't think in this universe, in this movie, that the people on Earth would have bought it. I don't think that they would have went to a colony if, as a group, they collectively shunned a lot of scientific beliefs that had been fact previously. Like it didn't make sense to me. Although I did love the movie, I loved a lot of the things in it. That was my biggest problem with it.
I never even thought about that, but that is a really good. That's something to point out for sure, because I never thought about that. How if all of these people thought that the moon landing was fake, and they're not like conspiratorially minded, they actually think this happened because they've been taught this. There is no way that they're going to believe, oh, NASA has a rocket ship that's next to Jupiter, and we're going to go to that little thing and we're going to live in peace. Like that, no, that's not going to work.
I thought it was interesting how she said, "Oh, that is the federal textbook, and now we go by what is actually true. We teach from what's true." I just thought that was just that wording of it being a federal textbook. Um, I wish they did tell us the truth sometimes. I'm not sure if we can handle it. Kind of same scenario. You don't know if those people on Earth in this movie, if they could handle the truth of what was going on, and maybe we can't handle what's actually going on. I don't know, but I did think that that was kind of odd that she would just say that's the federal textbook.
I never caught that. That is interesting.
I remember when I think it was the father-in-law tells his son-in-law when he's getting ready to go to school, said, be kind to that lady, that teacher, she's single. And so when he gets there, I think we saw why she was single. She made me mad. I mean, I really, movies affect me that way. I can get mad at certain stars or cry at them or whatever. But when they were sitting there, she had this attitude of, none of that happened in history really mattered, and it wasn't true. But now we are going to show you the right way. So first of all, when he went to that school, there was several things I didn't like there. One, they were going to dictate what that young man, his son, was going to do for a career. Now, the boy liked farming. That wasn't the problem. But the truth of the matter was they had set out the course for him because that's what they needed was farmers, not engineers. And then when we get to the teacher and she finally pulls up to the table, you can see that she has this attitude toward something that he really loves space and that type thing. So I thought it was intriguing and kind of funny when he came back to the car and he says to his daughter, I got you suspended. I thought that was pretty cute.
As far as how you brought up, Bill, where they said they didn't need engineers, they needed farmers. My thought on that is, I'm pretty sure it's common fact that today engineers help with a lot of advances in agriculture.
True.
And I thought that does not make any sense whatsoever if you're going to try and force this boy to just be a plain farmer when he could be an engineer with a specialty in agricultural processing or something like that. It didn't make sense to me, which I know it wasn't a super important part of the film. Like, it wasn't a core part, but it was still very, very confusing almost.
And if we'll remember, just before that, I think it was just before that, his dad, who no doubt had some engineer abilities, he goes and fixes that piece of farm equipment that was, very important to the fields and how big they were. So she kind of had the cart before the horse, I think the teacher did.
Yeah, that entire scene, I just, it, geez, I love how as soon as I go to talk, the internet goes out. That entire scene is just very frustrating to me because, like I said, I'm really into space and I'm a history nerd, and like you're gonna say that both of those are just not true. It caught me, just all of that, her and the whole scene, honestly. Even though David Oyelowo, who plays the principal, is top tier actor.
Yeah, this is a issue that's being debated about even in politics right now. Like Corey, your question about, are we pioneers, or should we worry about space? Should we fund space, or should we stick to problems on Earth? Like I know right now there's a big debate going on at this very moment. Bernie Sanders is calling out Elon Musk, right, for being hoarding so much wealth. I mean, the guy's the second richest guy in the world, I think, at this point. But Elon's like, I'm using this fortune I'm building up to go to space because the government won't do it. So I can kind of see Elon's point here, right? But ever since the 60s, we've pretty much abandoned space, right? Which is a shame.
Yeah, and we even see our main actor defend when he made the statement. I think he made the statement about um, if we hadn't went to space, we wouldn't have the equipment medically, and if we would have continued, we may have had something that would have saved my wife's life. I don't. I think I'm getting that right to some degree.
Yeah, he
But
was
he
talking
was
about the MRI.
Yes, that's right, Nicole. And so he was defending that. And I think if we knew more, because I hear that a lot from older people, why do we go to space and all that? But a lot of things have been scientific breakthroughs have been, have been accomplished because of the space program. And I think we lost our grip on the space program when we decided to allow the trips that we would take. We paid the Soviet Union to take our satellites and that type thing. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting point here because in the movie it's getting ready to launch us into space, and then we're arguing with a school teacher about whether we should go to space or not. So yeah, I like the scene. I'm glad the scene was in there, but I was upset when we came out of the scene.
I feel
I
you.
think I
Go
think it
ahead.
was beneficiary because you needed to know that the people on Earth was not as accepting or that they even believed that anything like that would be possible. So no matter how horrible life got here, they were not going to seek some other treasure, so to speak. They were not going to do that because they didn't believe it in the beginning. You know what I was talking about, don't you, Dad? So, and I mean, after we had the teacher blow up in the 80s going to space, I believe that was that was our last major anything. But we had to go to space. We have memory foam now because of space. You know, we've we not necessarily saying that we would move there, but I believe that you do have to continue to learn and you have to continue to expand your horizon because you never know what learning from someone else or another culture, another, whatever is going to make us more progressive here on earth. So I don't know, but I think that was a necessary scene for sure.
And if we were to play devil's advocate here, if we think about it, we probably, at least the majority of us that live where we live, have never experienced the too much of the hunger problem. Perhaps if we did have a food problem, maybe our opinions would change. And we may perhaps say, we need to spend that money on food rather than going into space. So, if we look at it from both sides, there was an argument during the day. But as we know, as we get into the movie, they were doing the space thing anyway, but they were doing it undercover or in secret because had the word got out, the people would have rebelled against the program. So, I think sometimes when we have an opinion, we need to slide ourselves into our opponent's position, maybe give us a better angle on the debate that we're going to try to make.
I couldn't agree with you more there, Bill. And to further touch on the devil's advocate idea, especially for this argument, today, I think that our space exploration has been incredibly valuable. to all of our advancements, all of our discoveries. But I think that the way that a lot of people are looking at it, I feel like a lot of people are looking at space in the future and in our future exploration as a militarization of it. And I don't think that right now at this time for our country that that would be a worthy thing to put billions of dollars into personally. And I think that the question of poverty and food today, because that is a question, it is a problem. I think that could be fixed by looking within. I don't think it would be so much a monetary thing. I think it would be more of a value thing and of a government thing. Because if we look at capitalism, we see the problem right there. While capitalism is not all bad, the way that it's being executed in this country is not logical, and it is for the 5 or the 1% and not for the 99 or the 95%. And as far as the Elon Musk business, I don't think he should be a billionaire personally. I don't think anyone should be a billionaire. I think that when there are people starving in the world, whether they're in your country or not, and when there are people suffering, that no one should be able to reach that level of success. I think that we all deserve a quality of life, maybe not a perfect life, because a perfect life is not attainable, but a good quality of life and a good chance where your work actually is portrayed in what you get. Because I feel like today, no matter how hard some of us work, there is no way to get out of the hole that's been dug by capitalism. Because the trickle down method just does not work, in my opinion.
As someone who generally agrees with Nicole pretty much on a lot of what you said, it's such a hard balance. It really is, because there's like you have to make sure that everybody is fed, everybody is clothed, everybody at the very least has some sort of foundation where they have at least a decent life to live. But you also want to see how high you can go, what our limits are, both in terms of capitalism and in terms of like space. And I've always heard the argument of, why should we be going to space when we have homeless people here? And I do hear you, 1000%. I do hear you. And also keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who likes space in particular, so I'm going to want to keep it going. But just we can just because there are bad things happening here doesn't mean that we can't do good things outside of here. It would be like cavemen not wanting to leave the cave because we have everything we need right here. Plus, there are some people who don't even have enough right here in the cave. So why would we leave and risk leaving the cave when we don't even have our problem solved here? And it's one of those things where it's like, do we focus on helping the bad things, or do we focus on looking for more good things?
Well, to expand on that a little bit, Corey, the way that I look at it is, if we're going to send money or resources elsewhere, I would much rather send them to space instead of to a I'm going to sound racist here, and I don't mean to a towhead country, and just throw them money for them to use as that's like, to use as a whatever they want to use it for. At least if we're going to space, we're doing that to benefit us. And not everybody who's hungry and not everybody who is homeless is by their own choosing, but a lot are. But not everybody by any means. People have lost jobs and mental illness. It could be war. It could be a million different reasons why, and I don't know that. I can't even answer that. But if we are going to send money elsewhere and not take care of us, then why not send it to benefit us in the future and to to gain more knowledge to help us in the end. That's just how I look at it. So I'm with this little project that they done.
I
Well,
always like the idea of when somebody says we spend too much on NASA, very specifically NASA, not anything else, NASA. We spend 25% on Social Security, we spend 15% on the military, we spend 0.5% of our budget on NASA.
Can I ask for a reference on that, if you don't mind, or a source?
Yeah. 1000%. I got it from like the US like thing. I got it from a US government website. The statistic on Social Security and the military. NASA's budget was from a few years ago, so I would have to look for that. But 100% at a time in like 2017, it was a 0.5% of the budget.
you know, in our
Keep in mind, sorry, Bill, but
Go
keep in
ahead.
mind the U.S. budget is around a few $1 trillion a year, and NASA is a couple $100 billion, maybe
But
a couple.
we
Go
can
ahead.
even notice in our film here that there are financial woes in this farming community. So those are always, they're going to be with us. But in the movie, I was intrigued about when this plane or this drone was flying over and they're going through this corn patch, and he has come up with some kind of device to be able to track that device. And when he finally gets it to where he's got it in his computer, and he then can control it, and he brings it to the ground and so on and so forth. So somewhere in the past, there had been some emphasis on the space program and so on and so forth. But as shown in the movie, they pretty much did away with the space program. But the economic problems were still there. As long as we have people making decisions for other people, we'll have those problems. But it's important to see what the movie did as far as the economic situation. I want to bring this up. When I remember when they were at the baseball field before the space encounter, they go and they've got the baseball game going on. Beautiful field, look like AstroTurf to me. So that's very expensive. But then this huge dust storm comes, and we get that scene. And then later in the movie, hours into the movie, we see another baseball scene where there's harmony and people are there in the colony. And again, it's an emphasis on baseball. I thought that was intriguing that they used two examples, one of baseball in the early part of the movie, and then later on at the end of the movie, they use another baseball analogy. So
America's pastime.
that's what I was in the back of my mind, that baseball in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, close into the 80s, baseball was the national pastime. It's probably changed now, but that's exactly what I thought.
And it was 10 years previous to whenever they seen that drone. It was 10 years previous, because he said that they had lost, I guess, control or whatever of it 10 years ago, whenever they had lost, I guess, US or whatever lost theirs, or whatever that he was working on. And that's how he was able to know a little about it and be able to then take control of it. And I remember the little girl, Murph, she was asking, why can't we just leave it alone? It's not bothering us. Why can't we just leave it alone? Well, and he was kind of explaining to her that sometimes you have to sacrifice things, and everybody kind of has their part, or you've everything has to pull its own weight type deal. So that ended up coming back in the movie as a whole, with an explanation for that too. I think Reagan said something, if everybody wants to read that. It says, I agree with Corey's outlook. You cannot worry about everyone. If you want to, then you could use all resources to make everyone comfortable. But where does that leave room for exploration, invention, or success? I agree with that too.
I'm trying to find a balance in both, because like I am one who like I said before, I agree with Nicole almost entirely with what she said. But also like I also want to be able to go out into space and to be able to do stuff like this. And I did actually find, just real quick, cbo.gov, congressionalbudgetoffice.gov, is where I got my info. It's a little less than 25% that goes to Social Security. And that's not me saying, like, get rid of Social Security or anything like that. I'm just pointing out the chunks of the budget and where it goes. And compared to everything else, NASA's is very small. NASA's overall budget was 22 billion according to planetary.org. I can't find an exact, well, anyways, 22 billion seems to be the agreed upon number on what the budget is for NASA. 2.2 trillion is anyways, let me just make my point. 4.4 trillion is what our budget is. So it's 0.5%, or yeah, a 0.5%.
Yeah, just imagine if they did something as simple as shaving 5% off the military budget and putting it in NASA. Right? That would be huge.
And we have the biggest military budget in the world by far. You could literally cut our military budget by 60% and we would still have the biggest military budget in the world.
Now, I don't know if I'm totally accurate on this, but do you remember like 2 years ago when they had an update to the military uniform? I think I have a lot of friends who are in the military, and one of my previous coaches is a higher up, and he said that I think the total was somewhere about 2 million maybe for that uniform change. $2 million on uniforms. I thought that was crazy.
The increase for the military budget, I guess now we're just talking about this. The increase for the military budget from 2017 to 2018 was $80 billion. And a bill that was introduced into Congress last year that could do free college for everyone was 60 billion. So
we don't want free college for everyone. I can tell you that now, because if we did, these degrees that we're getting ain't gonna be worth squat. I mean, that's a fact, because everybody can get it. Right now, it's the people who are working for it and the people that are going to fight tooth and nail to get it. We're going to do our due diligence as far as filling out our FAFSA and trying to get scholarships and things like that. Well, if everybody can get it, that's just like public school. I mean, so what? Everybody gets a high school degree. You got a few that's dropped out. I mean, that's kind of how it would be. And I believe that we work really hard to get these degrees, and they need to stand alone. Do I believe that the government could, throw us a little more money? Absolutely, always. But when it comes to the military, that's, I think that they could use some of their money that they have in their budget and actually help our guys once they come back. Won't you help them? That way it's going to stop on some homelessness and some mental illness, help them out as far as that kind of stuff goes. But NASA, me and Dad, our family went to Florida. My uncle lives out there. We actually got to stand in his backyard and watch a shuttle take off. And I'm talking like he lived right across from the Stinky River. That's what I called it because it was horrible. And right in the middle of the Stinky River is the pad, and it vibrates his windows and all that. And I never gave a crap about anything like that. But when I seen that, you can hear me the whole time in the video going, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I can't believe I'm seeing this. And I don't think that we realize, just as earthlings, I don't think we realize how important and how amazing and spectacular that kind of thing is. And movies like this kind of bring it to light. And look at the technology that we have now. Um, Look at the reasonings that we have this kind of technology. Think about all the satellites and things like that that are probably floating up there in space. I mean, we need to, I guess, enlighten our people a little more. And maybe movies like this can do that, to make you realize what is actually possible or what could be possible.
I know after movies like this and Gravity came out, Gravity is also one of those movies where if you haven't watched it, watch it. It's really good. It's got oh man, what's her name?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock in it. Sandra Bullock play is phenomenal in that movie. And it's also one of those movies where it's like it's very scary just because it's space and just emptiness, and it's space because it's space, and it's just but once movies like that and Interstellar came out, interest in science went like super high. Like that's why I got into space real big, was because of movies like Interstellar and Gravity. They're like what nudged me towards that interest.
Um, I know we always have good conversation. We're getting ready to lose. We don't have much time, but I wanted to bring up something that I was wondering if anybody noticed. And that was there was two camera shots that I thought that were very interesting. Well, really three. One was the dust storm that I mentioned earlier. One was the huge wave that was getting ready to come onto the ship, and the other, I almost forgot what I was going to get to. The other one was when they were coming toward the mothership, and it was spinning and it was spinning and it was spinning, and he was going to have to do a maneuver in order to hook back up to it. And the camera is showing all this, and it's real dramatic. And then suddenly the camera pulls way back and allows us to see the two vehicles coming together, and the camera shows us how the one vessel was going spinning around, and then he takes his craft into a spin, and the camera allows us to look and see what's going on. I don't think that I would have understood what was going on unless they made that camera pull back for me to see the whole episode there. So I thought that was something that was pretty great about the movie, was the camera work.
Even the lighting in that, I'm sorry, Dr. Yeager, in
Go.
the lighting in that scene where him and Matt Damon pushes him down, they're using those little things that give him a little boost of whatever, but all that, what looked to be like ice, was just so white and bright. And that's the same way whenever you look at a dark movie, just on the other spectrum. A dark movie's all dark, and it uses that light to give us some emphasis. And I think in that it used, like white and gray to give us that emphasis that we needed in those scenes.
Yeah, Nolan's often panned for camera work. Like I know in the Batman movies, he caught a lot of flack for like shaky cameras and stuff. So like he's definitely, you could definitely tell as his career has went on that he's crafted that he's became one with his craft. I wanted to turn the conversation one way that we haven't really got to yet, too, and that is all these different space theories, right? So, like Corey mentioned it earlier, like the idea that if you're close to a black hole, time works different, right? Like I don't know how familiar you guys are with like these types of physics concepts, like Einstein's theory of relativity, right? That's what that whole thing is about. And like we talked about earlier with the exposition, it does a good job explaining it. But have you guys encountered these concepts before? Are you like, what do they mean? Like an hour here is 20 years on Earth, right?
Not specifically. I mean, I had heard things like that, but as far as knowing the actual numbers or anything like that, I didn't. One question I did have for you guys that may know a lot more than me. Remember when Matt Damon and everything exploded? I thought there wasn't supposed to be like explosions in space because it was a vacuum. Am I right or wrong?
You can have explosions in space. You can't hear anything, but an explosion is possible.
Okay.
It just kind of flings you around just like it did him.
I mean, I did think that it was a little different as far as time, and we all measure time how we've been taught to measure time, but there's different instances about different things. I mean, we talk about time and space and how they kind of work together and how they fight against each other sometimes. And I thought this movie was great about that too.
Real quick, did any of y'all see when because one of the YouTube videos I watched about this, the person I watched their review of it said that they immediately got that Matthew McConaughey was the ghost in the bookshelf. Did anybody get that? Because I didn't at all. It was a complete surprise to me when I found that out.
It totally took me by shock. I was watching it and I was just verbally, I was like, what? And my fiance just looked at me. He's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is absolutely insane. It took me totally by surprise though.
Took me by surprise also. And when it was him, I got a real neat feeling. I felt like that we were going to have at least a decent ending here, and everybody wasn't going to die in space. And I just all of a sudden, you see him going through there, and all those bookshelves, and it was fascinating. I thought I was happy that it turned out like it did.
Me too, definitely. Like that's whenever I set up and was like, I mean, it kind of started putting things together automatically in my head. They were just rolling through, and I called Dad, and I'm like, "Are you finished with the movie yet?" He said, "I got 13 minutes left." I was like, "Call me back. We got to talk about this." So, I really enjoyed that, and I think that because I was thinking whenever she was a child and she was playing with that toy and how it was apart. And then whenever it showed them in space, I was like, that looks like what she played with. And then it brought it back and showed you her playing with that and how she couldn't really get it together. And about the part that Dad, you were talking about the camera angles and the camera work whenever they were putting all that together, it wasn't even supposed to be possible with that spinning as fast as it was for them to be able to latch on. But they needed that because of his ingenuity that he thought about. They needed that to be able to blast them back into space, or however you want to word that. But I thought, oh, that was great. But yeah, I was really digging the fact that it was him, and I loved it whenever they were going up. Remember, and she was the girl was like, "Oh, it's my first handshake," and then it goes back and shows that it was really Matthew McConaughey shaking her hand, and yet he was sitting beside of her at the same time. I liked that aspect too.
So just wrapping up sci-fi, I've given you guys three really great films: 2001, Blade Runner, and this. I don't know which movies you guys. I know Crystal gravitated to Interstellar most. What about the rest of you? Corey, are you still mostly a 2001 guy?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Interstellar, I watched a few years ago, so like Interstellar also has like all three of them have a weird place in my heart because like um I have been wanting to watch Blade Runner since Blade Runner 2049 came out. 2001: A Space Odyssey, I just really liked as a movie, and Interstellar I had already watched before. But yes, mostly 2001: A Space Odyssey is my favorite out of all of these.
Yeah, of the three, Interstellar was my favorite. I enjoyed this movie. I like.
About the rest of you?
I personally liked Interstellar the best. While I think that a close second was Blade Runner, I really liked Blade Runner. I just enjoyed the visual aspects of Interstellar.
Yeah, the dark, depressing atmosphere in Blade Runner can grate on you after a while, to say the least. Yeah, my goal with this section of the class, sci-fi is not my favorite genre either. I'm with Crystal there. My goal in this section was to give you three like really different pieces. I didn't want to give you a franchise that you would have to invest in, like Star Wars or something like that, or Star Trek. So I tried to give you three really exemplary examples of strong sci-fi filmmaking. There's tons of others, like Corey mentioned. Gravity is a really cool film that came out just a few years ago. I really like the movie Starship Troopers. It's kind of like, it's this really campy, like futuristic military utopia movie where they kill bugs, like in a 1950s sci-fi sort of setting. That's really cool. The book's better though. In that case. So yeah, tons of good sci-fi out there. Like I said, that was my goal. I just wanted to give you three movies that weren't franchises that all add to the conversation. And ask tough questions, right? Like androids and should we go to space? Will computers do a hostile takeover? So these are all important themes, right? We no other genre tackles those themes quite like sci-fi. So if nothing else, I hope you guys now have a greater appreciation of sci-fi, if you didn't already. But next up in the class is horror. Right? Horror is next up. So Regan, you're their next presenter on The Exorcist. The Exorcist is our first horror film we're going to watch next week. You said you lost your voice, Regan. You can chat in the box, but I don't know if you think you'd be ready to present next week. That's a question we should know now. It's 5 days from now, but I'll let you chat in the box there. Yeah, we have a bunch of presentations coming up. Nicole is second with next week with John Carpenter's The Thing. Then we have Bill after that with The Silence of the Lambs. And yeah, then we'll end horror with The Babadook and The Lighthouse. So we get 5. We're doing 5 horror films. Yeah, so that's mostly on me because horror is my favorite. So hence we're doing more. So
whenever I present, that will be next Thursday, correct?
yeah, next Thursday. Regan's next Tuesday.
All righty.
So for the two of you, I would say follow both Crystal and Corey here. Both did really great presentations. So follow that handout model that both Crystal and Corey did. That will lead you to success. Okay. So yeah.
If you want any, sorry, if you want any tips, I literally just copied Crystal, like pretty much. I was
Well,
I was going I was going into it expecting to hear from your lawyers. So
I wouldn't do you like that, buddy. I like you too much. Um, I really just done a lot of just research on the film, on the people that were actors, and then that was a film that I really loved. So I dug in a little deeper than maybe what I should have. I probably still had 3 pages of notes sitting on my table whenever I got finished that we didn't even discuss about. So I wanted to make sure I had a bunch of filler. So having too much is definitely better than not having enough. So I definitely had enough filler to where if it got silent, that not that this class ever has a problem with that, but where we could keep going. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next week because I've always wanted to watch The Exorcist and The Thing, but I just never have. So I'm super excited about that. And Silence of the Lambs, I could probably quote that. So I'm looking forward to all that. It's going to be kind of a good downslope after midterms and going back to work and all that stuff.
Regan, you just asked, will I be getting any emailed examples? Yeah, Regan, I did email Crystal's before. I emailed Corey's today. So you should have a copy of samples, both of them. And also, guys, remember your midterms. They're coming up. As long as if it gives you guys any breathing room, I'll allow you to turn them in by next Tuesday. I'll give you an extension on that if you want. Next Tuesday, give you guys some breathing room over the weekend. I have papers to catch up on in other classes anyway, so turning them in immediately isn't the biggest concern. So take your time, breathe, write up a draft. Even if you want to send me a draft this weekend, I'll be happy to take a look, give you some early feedback. Okay, so take me up on that for sure.
When I was looking at the blackboard and looking for paper 2, I noticed that it's not in there for a Dropbox.
I didn't put a Dropbox up for the midterm paper yet. Let me take a look.
Oh, I see it now. No, that's a different class.
Nope, I don't have it up. So I'm glad you told me, Ryan. I'll put it up.
see, I noticed the same thing. So I was wondering if it was even due tomorrow.
Yeah, it was, but you can turn it in anytime over the weekend. I'll be content. Okay. So you guys did a really good job in the first short paper. If you haven't read your comments back, I emailed them and put them on Blackboard for you too. So nobody got below a B, which is awesome, right? I'm such a hard grader, right? That's what they say on these other campuses, right? I'm such a tough person, right? But you guys all did great work, so hence the fact no one got below a B. But if you did get a B and you want to address the feedback I gave you and revise it, feel free, right? I will give you an A if you revise and do better with it. So I have no problem with that. I want you to get better. So those of you who struggled a bit, some of you struggled with grammar a bit. Some of you struggled with building your ideas a bit too. My biggest advice for future papers is you guys all focused a lot on plot. Make sure you bring in the film stuff too to balance out the plot analysis. Even for the people who got strong A's, I even mentioned that that's something that could be done more. Most of you guys did the cuckoo nest question, which was fun, since that's probably my favorite movie ever. So yeah, yeah, it was a nice balance. So, like I said, over the weekend, if you want me to look at something early, feel free. I will. All right.
I think Dad's a big teacher suck. That's why he starts writing on these papers that these movies that nobody else writes on.
Yeah, he did Apocalypse Now, which I appreciated.
Yeah. Well, you should see what he's got for midterm. It's ridiculous. That's why I offered to pay him, but he just won't take the money.
And Kirsten did The Grapes of Wrath. She was the only other person to do a different topic.
Corey,
This
you done
mo-
a great job today.
This
Appreciate
movie,
it.
something else we just to mention real quick. The Grapes of Wrath and Interstellar have a lot in common with the Dust Bowl type of theme.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't mention that, but I didn't think about it till just now.
When there's one of the scenes when when Murph is leaving their place, and everybody's leaving, and they got their trucks and stuff, and like all of their stuff is in the back of these trucks. I was thinking, oh, that looks like the Grapes of Wrath. So yeah, I noticed that connection too.
I was going to send my paper in tonight. Will it be? Have you got it ready for us to send those in?
Yeah, I'm going to put that Dropbox up right
'Cause
now.
I'm going to be okay. Good, because I'm going to be gone this weekend. I won't be able to do it this weekend.
Yeah, I'll put it up right now. So
I appreciate it.
all right, guys. So until next time, The Exorcist. All right. See you then. Don't
Good
get too
job,
scared.
Corey.
Y'all have a good
Thank you.
weekend and know that we're giving food away out at most of the campuses. They're 30-pound boxes, and each campus has different amount, but they're 30-pound boxes that have fresh berries. They have meats and all kinds of stuff in them. And you don't have to have like a certain income to get those. You just have proof of income, and you just drive up. We bring the box to you, and you drive away. You don't even have to get out of your car. So definitely spread that around. I know that there's different times for these. I know at Boone campus it's going to be at noon, and at Logan it's going to be 10:30 or 11:30, I think. And then Williamson, they had someone else was doing a food giveaway at the Armory. It was supposed to have been today, but it's now postponed until tomorrow. And then the Wyoming campus is also doing that. I'm not sure what time, but everybody make sure that they get out and get that, or if they know someone who needs that. We're just trying to, our student government's trying to help out, and you guys get involved with your student government. There's a lot of good things that go on, and it looks good on your applications whenever you further your application to school. All of that looks good, and it looks good on your resume. So teach you a lot, put your hand in some things. So y'all might want to join in. But good job today, Corey. We'll see y'all.
See you guys.
I appreciate it. See y'all.